Good morning. I'm Penelope McPhee, the president of the Arthur M. Blank Family Foundation, and it's my pleasure to welcome you today to our Speaker Series program. Today, we are celebrating Georgia's statewide adoption rollout of the Congressional Medal of Honor Foundation's Character Development Program. And there's much to celebrate. It's a reminder of how much we can accomplish when we're all working together. 1 year ago this month, several of us in the room today were part of a group that Arthur took to Antietam for a tour of the battlefield there and a leadership program. We were privileged that several Medal of Honor recipients were leading the program for us. And at after the event, at one of the dinners, when Colonel Jack Jacobs, who himself was a Medal of Honor recipient, was describing the Medal of Honor Foundation and the Character Development Program, Arthur and I looked at one another and almost simultaneously said, "We need this in Georgia." So today really is the culmination of our efforts along with those of many, many other people. Sometimes it's a tough call as to whether something is a fit for the values of our foundation. This was an easy one. We care about children, we care about leadership, we care about character, we care about values. All of that is what the Medal of Honor Foundation Character Development Program is about. And it's no surprise that other people believed in this program as well. So the Georgia National Guard is providing schools with training materials for the Character Development Program. And State Superintendent John Barge, who is with us today, and the State Board of Education have endorsed the program and are working closely with the Medal of Honor Foundation to organize training sessions all over the state. So please join me in welcoming and thanking Dr. Barge and the Board of Education members who have joined us, along with the Georgia National Guard. I also want to recognize United States Senator Johnny Isakson, who's joined us today. You know how packed his schedule is, and we greatly appreciate your being with us, Senator. And there's more good news. I'm very pleased to announce that the Arthur M. Blank Family Foundation has awarded a 3-year grant of $350,000 to the Medal of Honor Foundation to spread this program to schools across Georgia, reaching more than 140,000 Georgia middle and high school students annually. The Character Development Program is challenging students to explore how courage, commitment, sacrifice, patriotism, citizenship, and integrity can be exemplified in daily life. This is a true team effort, and there are several people I want to thank for their great work in beginning to bring the Character Development Program to Georgia. Medal of Honor staff members Kathy Bell and Noel Wall have the program up and running already. They've conducted training sessions for teachers in Warner Robins and Cobb County. I'd also like to welcome Bruce Barrington and his wife, Joan. Bruce is a board member of the Medal of Honor Foundation and has been a great friend to Arthur and to our foundation as we've developed this partnership. He and his wife flew all the way from California to be with us today, so thank you for being here. In a few minutes, you'll be hearing about the Character Development Program from Medal of Honor recipient Colonel Leo Thorsness, along with Ronald Rand, the president and CEO of the Congressional Medal of Honor Foundation. You will find detailed bios for both of these gentlemen in our program. We had been looking forward today to hosting Harold A. Fritz, president of the Congressional Medal of Honor Society, and himself a Medal of Honor recipient. Unfortunately, Lieutenant Colonel Fritz is ill, so we wish him a speedy recovery and appreciate that Leo Thorsness has been willing to change his schedule and step in. When we heard from Colonel Jacobs last year, what really grabbed us is how personally the Medal of Honor recipients are invested in this program. Colonel Jacobs told us we can't do anything about the past. It's gone. Maybe we can improve today, but it's moving fast. It's almost gone. Tomorrow is the only thing we can fix. And fixing tomorrow means showing our young people how they can take the values of the Medal of Honor recipients, the values that they displayed on the battlefield, the gallantry that we read about, how they can take that and apply it every day to their lives. There is some urgency here. We really must accelerate the work of harvesting and documenting the character lessons from the Medal of Honor recipients. When President Nixon presented Colonel Jacobs with the Medal of Honor in 1969, there were close to 400 living recipients. Now, after the March 12th death of Ola Mize, who was awarded the Medal of Honor as an Army corporal in 1966, there only remain 77 living Medal of Honor recipients. So Colonel Jacobs says, we feel the unrelenting press of time. It's fitting that as their last act of service, these Medal of Honor recipients are fighting not to memorialize their own heroic deeds, but for the future of America's children. Please join me in welcoming Ronald Rand.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone, and thanks, Penelope, for that great framing of what we're about today. Thank you to you and Arthur and everybody at the Foundation for your strong support of our program. Thanks to all your honored guests for being here and for their investment in character development here in Georgia. We can't do it without that kind of support, and I guarantee you with the momentum you have here, and I'll talk about this in a minute, this is going to be a model program that we'll be able to hopefully implement across the country. I have the honor this morning of getting to lead you all in the Pledge of Allegiance. Before I do that, I would ask you to take just a minute and think about what the pledge and what the flag means to you. While you do that, I'll tell you what the flag means to me. It's just 13 stripes of red and white, and it's just 50 stars on a field of blue. It's just a little cotton flag. Does it mean anything to you? Oh, yes, it should, for beneath its folds, Americans are safe on land and sea. Flies over a land where democracy rules and where people come to live free. So let's love it well and keep it pure, and each day cherish its legacy as a beacon of hope to one and all. Its Old Glory, the banner of liberty. And now, if you would, please rise, and I'd like to ask Leo Thorsness, Senator Isaacson, and Arthur Blank to come up here and lead us all in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you all. Thank you to the color guard for presenting the colors this morning, too. Before we begin, let's recognize all the veterans here in the room today. If you're currently serving, if you've served, please stand and let us show our appreciation for your service. Penny gave an excellent overview of how this partnership began and of the great support we're getting from the Guard, from the Georgia State Board of Education, She's right, I think, that a lot of people here in Georgia believe that character development is a good fit for your state and for your schools. And that's good, because when you're trying to do something like this, when you're trying to make a change like this, it takes a village. And I can't tell you how proud we are to have been invited into your village. We're excited about bringing CDP to Georgia because we're at an inflection point in our program. And Georgia is going to be able to help us define the future. The program has its roots in the recipient's desire to teach America's youth that the characteristics that Penny talked about, courage and sacrifice and patriotism and community and integrity, those characteristics reside in all of us. They're there in everybody. They're in every kid. They're in every adult. The recipients believe that you do not have to be in combat against an armed enemy to perform a noteworthy or act of service or valor in your community, to your friends, to your family. And that's where the roots of character development come from. They want to teach these kids, your kids, our kids, that they can make a difference in people's lives if they act according to those principles. The curriculum we teach was developed for and by teachers. We're up to 59 lessons now. 48 of those lessons are based on the stories of recipients. 11 of them are based on everyday citizens who have been awarded by the recipients a Citizen Honors Award for a valorous act or an act of unbelievable service. Our goal this year in the program is to conduct 60 in-person trainings across the country. We send 2 of our teachers to a community that has asked for it. 60 teachers who have volunteered come in, and we spend a day teaching them the curriculum, because our model to date has been to teach the curriculum to teachers so teachers can then go teach it to the students. Within Georgia, as Penny said, our partnership calls for 16 trainings over the next 3 years. And as she said, we've done 2. We've reached nearly 100 teachers in Georgia already. So this isn't a program that we're talking about happening. This program is already happening, thanks to the support of all of you. I said we're at an inflection point, and that's all about the momentum in the program. 2013 was our best year yet. We trained more than 1,200 teachers in 28 seminars. You'll remember I said we're shooting to double that this year. We're shooting to conduct 60 seminars and reach 2,400 teachers through those trainings. But we're also embracing new delivery methods, because Penny really hit the nail on the head when she said there's an urgency. We don't have the luxury of time to go slow with this. We have to go fast. So we're developing new delivery methods to expand the reach and the speed with which we can do that. Last fall, we developed a DVD kit. The kit that we take to the in-teacher training sessions is a package of materials about that big. The entire lesson plan, the entire kit, is now on this DVD. We introduced this DVD in the fall of last year, and we've sent more than 10,000 copies of this on request, not forcing them on people, but waiting for people to ask for it. It's available on the website. If you want, the lesson plans are all on the website. If you want the DVD, you just go to the website and tell us you want it, and we'll put it in the mail and send it to you. We've also developed a webinar series to teach CDP to teachers. We've done a January, a February, a March, and an April webinar. In fact, thanks to the Blank Foundation, we just did our April webinar here yesterday with 150 teachers participating from across the country. And 150 who spend the hour with us while we're talking about character development and the program and the lessons is a small fraction of the number who will then see the replay and will come back to that video online over and over and over again. So we're We're doing direct training with classroom teachers. We're reaching new audiences, including school librarians and counselors, homeschool communities, and even after-school programs. With this grant from the Blank Foundation and the support from the Guard and the Georgia State Board of Education, we'll build an amazing CDP foundation here in Georgia, and for that, we're hugely grateful. And that brings me back to the beginning, which is to the Medal of Honor recipients who have made character development program their top priority because they want it to be the legacy they leave. Through their actions, these men have set an example that we can all aspire to, and they have shown us truly what courage and sacrifice and patriotism really mean. They're shining examples to all of us, and I have the privilege of working with and talking to men like Leo every day, and every day it's a gift to be able to talk with and work with people like Leo. It's an honor for me today to recognize one of our nation's true heroes. He is a Medal of Honor recipient, and he is the immediate past president of the Medal of Honor Society. He's Leo Thorsness. As Penny said, he's one of 77 living recipients. Collectively, their legacy is to inspire others to find in themselves those characteristics that will make a better future for all of us. But it would be best if the recipients speak for themselves. So in this 9-minute video I'm going to show, which is called In Their Own Words, you'll hear from recipients like Jack Jacobs what the future holds and why character development is so important. Video, please.
The day I was born, I was handed a gem that is absolutely impossible to buy. That was my freedom.
We've got a great country, we've got great people. We have kids that are willing to put themselves at risk to serve us. This is a representation of the very best that America has to offer.
It is the best country in the world, and I'm part of it now.
My dad and mom were both in a motorcycle club, and they rode Harleys. I had relatives that had been in the various services, the Army, the Air Force, and one in the Navy. I always enjoyed listening to their experiences, especially the whole idea of giving something back.
You know, when you're young, and we all had dreams about being a big star, and mine was baseball. I loved playing baseball, and I played semi-pro. One day, Mom said, "We got this thing. You've been drafted." I said, "By who?" He said, "The Army." I said, "Mom, the Army don't play baseball."
Hell, I was not committed to stay in the Marine Corps. I wanted to stay my required time and go into engineering. But I stayed for 34 years.
I decided to go into service to learn a profession. All my life I wanted to be an airplane mechanic. One day during the flight, an engine caught fire, and the pilot asked me what I wanted him to do. I said, "I know what to do. I'm just as smart as he is. I'm going to go to aviation cadet training."
We landed at Tonsanute, and they had a mortar attack just as we landed. I was 19 years old. What's this? What's going on? It was a very interesting welcome.
We landed at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we fired all day. Just before dark, a helicopter came in, and a major got out. And he said, "Your probability of getting hit tonight is 100%. So prepare yourselves."
Much of that afternoon I do not remember, and I'm positive that fear wiped a lot of that memory out.
All of a sudden, it was noisy, it was chaotic, and by that time, I was angry because my soldiers were getting hit left and right.
You tend to think that you're invincible out there, and all of a sudden I get hit. But my primary thoughts were, got to do something to protect those folks on the beach.
Jesse had crash landed. When I got over to Jesse's airplane, I tried to pull him out of the cockpit. And he said, "If anything happens to me, tell Daisy how much I love her." And of course it did.
Eventually what happens, you do start seeing people killed, and you end up realizing that you're a 19-year-old kid. And as a 19-year-old, you're not God.
I was wounded, and I didn't think any doctor was going to repair me, so I might as well go all the way.
I didn't figure on coming out of it anyway, so I thought just keep going till you can.
Somebody yelled grenade, and I looked down, saw it.
How long had it been down there? I didn't know.
It's like time stopped.
They scooped it under me and I said, hit the dirt, Doc. I got it in my hip pocket. And it went off.
I ran out, picked up Captain Gormley in my arms and brought him back.
I run up and I said, come on, boy, let's get the hell out of here.
Came over the wall, put the collective pitch down, pulled the cyclic back in my lap. Stood the helicopter on her tail.
I just put one leg on each side of the cockpit and pulled him in head first right into the cockpit.
So I told the members of my squad to withdraw, and I stayed in cover to withdraw.
I didn't care what happened to me, but I wanted to protect my men under any circumstance.
I didn't even think about it, just did it.
What's my job? I don't think what I did was above and beyond. I never have.
People ask, do you regret anything about what you did? And I joked and I said, I probably would have grabbed it with my left hand. I don't have any regrets, I guess, but I'm a little disappointed that I had to leave the fight and leave all those guys there to finish it without me.
Everything that the medal is around involves the people I was with, not me. I have the highest respect for the medal and the people who wear it, but I would just as soon die as take credit.
I'm the one that gets to talk about what happened. I get all the glory. There's 3 grieving mothers whose sons were every bit as brave. And had they not been there, I wouldn't be here.
We call ourselves recipients, and people call us winners. And you see, we're not winners because we weren't in a competition for trying to win anything. We happen to be recognized by our fellow men, and so we wear this medal to honor the guys who really paid the supreme sacrifice, because we are here today because of them.
In the crucible of combat, one of the most important things you learn is the value of expending energy for somebody else. That it isn't all about you, it's about all of us together.
You know, Emerson said that all heroes must at last be bores. I mean, for God's sakes, you can only have so many parties, you can only be honored so much. And so we decided we want to leave something behind.
We stayed close to those around us. We remembered what's important. It's important to remember what you've lost, but it's important to remember what you have. That's what I wear this for.
Every Medal of Honor recipient has met in his life someone who inspired him in his lifetime to be what he turned out to be. That's our goal. That's all we got left. Time for us to get out and give what we've learned through our life to these kids.
It's not my story. It's our story. It's our story as a country.
We are showing to the people that really matter, the kids of this land, that you too are just like us. That each person they meet has the potential to change the world. There's a platform we were given when we were given the ribbon of blue. Let's use it to honor others.
The Medal of Honor is not often given when things went well on a battlefield. It tends to come at a price, and heroes are often revealed. Some say I'm a hero, but it doesn't make sense, because I got to come home.
There's a verse in the Psalms that says that man that is in honor and understands not is like a beast that perishes. And I've come to understand that what this medal represents is it's not about me, but it's about men and women who value something so strongly that they'd be willing to die for it. and they'd be willing to defend our country for it. And so they put on the uniform.
When I think about the Medal of Honor, I realize that I'm wearing this medal for the 400 and some people that died in those 4 days. They got this medal. I was selected to wear it for them.
Being a Medal of Honor recipient is something that you would never even dream of. There's a great sense of comfort, too, knowing that you're now a member of a band of brothers that you never hear the word hate amongst them. You killed the enemy because of the love you had for the man next to you. You knew their lives. You knew their family. You knew how brave they were just getting where they are. So the most powerful emotion on earth is love. We have to remind ourselves that and then convey that to the next generation.
8 of my brothers fought for a place we had called home. And more importantly, they fought for their comrades. And in the end, they gave their lives in that defense. I'll wear it with dignity and humility in their honor, and carry each of them in my heart for the rest of my life.
So those are the men whose quest this is, and those are the values that they're trying to instill in the kids of our country for the future of our nation. There are 77 living recipients. I've said that before. Just so that you know, 7 of them are World War II recipients, 9 from Korea, 55 from Vietnam, and 6 from the War on Terror in Afghanistan. I read an announcement from the White House last week that said the president is going to award another Afghanistan medal to a living recipient next month. So we'll go from 77 to 78. And now, let's get to the real meat of the day, which is a conversation with Medal of Honor recipient Leo Thorsness. Leo, would you please come up here and join me?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Leo, the video showed everybody, I think, pretty graphically, where the impetus for character development comes from. And it showed vignettes of a lot of the men who wear the medal and what they believe in, how they came to be the heroes they are. I'd like to just start so everybody knows a little bit about you. Where were you from? How did you choose to go into the Air Force? Just Leo Thorsness. Tell us a little bit about
Minnesota farm kid, Walnut Grove, Minnesota. There is such a town. I went to school there. And my brothers in Korea, my brothers-in-law, older, had all been in World War II. One of them was killed. And at that time, that was kind of the thing to do if you're in the Midwest, is you join the military, serve your time, and then come home and get back to the farm. It turned out I had the opportunity to go into the flying school and got to fly fighter airplanes, and that's as good a job as you're ever going to get until you get shot down.
What did your parents say when you came home and said you were joining the Air Force?
Dad was proud. Mom was worried. Pretty typical, I think.
Right.
Maybe Dad was too.
And tell a little bit about your flying career. Fighter pilots. You flew 105s?
I flew, last airplane was 105. It was a great big airplane, itty bitty wings. So you could go really fast. You could outrun anything. You could do 800 knots on the deck. It was just a phenomenal airplane. Just couldn't turn very hard because so much weight on little wings. But it was a good airplane. Vietnam was the first war in which there were surface-to-air missiles, SAMs, and they were. When the Soviet Union introduced them in '66, we lost a chunk of airspace. 2 wars: ground war in the south, air war in the north, trying to stop the ground supplies. And so they said we need something to, seek out and destroy the surface. And so that became my specialty.
So your mission was basically to be flying bait.
Yeah,
you were trolling over the enemy SAM sites, hoping they would light up and fire off so you could eliminate them, if not eliminated.
Hoping they'd light up, and before they fired, we get eliminated.
Okay. Did you have the capability to eliminate, or did you just?
No, we did. Yeah, we did.
Okay, good.
And yeah, we did that.
Can you tell us a little bit about the events or the circumstances in which you earned your medal?
Sure. I was, my wingman had been shot down. I was directing the rescue operation. In combat, there's always mix-up, and all the other airplanes went home. So my backseater, Harry Johnson, and I were left there by ourselves and found a tanker. And then some rescue airplanes, 2 little Sandy airplanes, World War II type, came in to see if they could find him, if they could, then helicopters. And they said, "Where are they?" And I said, "Harry, if we go back in, you know our odds." He said, "There's nobody else knows where they are." I mean, we were a good crew. And so we went back in, got involved with some MiGs again, and shot down another airplane, ran out of fuel, and gave our tanker to somebody funded to come in, and then we coasted the last 70 miles to the Mekong River.
With no fuel?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was quiet.
When did you when did you find out you were nominated and a medal had been decided to be awarded in your name?
I found out 2 years after I was a prisoner. I was there 6 years. And on the tap code, one day someone tapped, "Leo, did you know you've been nominated for the Medal of Honor?" And it wasn't a big deal. If you're a prisoner, your first 3 years were brutal, last 3 were kind of boring, but you were solitary, and being a prisoner was a big deal and a tough deal. But I found out that way. And the guy that was shot down, one of the people who did the research, and to get a Medal of Honor takes a year or 2 process. You could have 2 eyewitnesses or equivalent, and you got to be. So there are a bunch of rules and a lot of research. And one of the people that had been shot down was in the squadron I was. When I was shot down, they said the great thing about getting a Medal of Honor is recommended by your peers. It's not somebody up there; it's peers. That's meaningful. So anyway, he did some of the research, and then he was later shot down. So he was aware of that.
And when and who presented your medal?
It was presented, it was approved under President Johnson, but I waited for Nixon. No, I just say that flippantly. Johnson was, when the war was, President Johnson died before I came home. So President Nixon was the one who awarded it.
And how, since you've received the medal, how has being a recipient changed your life?
Not a lot, but I think it adds responsibility. The Medal of Honor is honored, and you don't think you're going to end up with one. In the military, there's millions of people, and all of a sudden you are one. And there is some responsibility. We all accept it. You don't want to mess up and go out and get thrown in jail or get in fights. You try to treat it with respect, and so I think you live your life a little bit more respectfully. At least we try.
In your book, there's a chapter that I was struck by and still remember about the importance of family, particularly during those years you were a POW. Can you talk about the role of family for you and for the other recipients in this journey? Because a lot of you have been wearing this medal for 40 or 45 years. And that's a burden that, fortunately, you don't carry alone, right?
Right. The family, just 30 seconds. While in Hanoi, the last 3 years, we were allowed to talk out loud. They moved us some solitary big cells, and I decided we all had ways of keeping track of figuring out how to use time and use it something somewhat usefully. I decided I would keep track of what we talk about as Medal of Honor, as POWs. And after about 2 weeks, there was only about 20 things we talked about over and over and over. And it'd be kind of true for most of us, I think. And I thought aviation, work would be the number one because there's no better job than flying. Turned out work came in number 17. The top 4 were family, friends, faith, and fun. That's what's important. That's the essence of life. You got to learn to live it. But if you don't have those things, you're missing a lot. But the importance of family. The last 3 years, when times got better, our families put pressure. Wrote letters to the Vietnamese and to our government. And Vietnam finally decided they let our wives send us one letter every 2 months, 6 lines long. And why they took it out in the families, I'll never know. But most of the letters that my wife wrote, I saw them when I came home, and it happened to other families too, but mine, I saw most of the letters my wife wrote to me, 6 lines long, every 2 months. They'd be in the mail system. She mailed them from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. They'd come back unopened. On the outside was stamped deceased. Tough. So so I think family is as important just about as and in my days it was the men in the military. Now it's either one, but I think the person that's in the military, if they know that their family is well taken care of and the military looks out for them, and they're a better warfighter. And but the family, I think most of us from Raid, they're about as important as we are, probably more so in serving our country.
I knew you would say that. Thank you for going there, Leo. Let's shift gears a minute before we go to the audience for questions. We've said there are 77 living recipients. I didn't say that the average age of those 77 is 77 years. And we've talked about the urgency in delivering character development as broadly as we can while we still have a lot of recipients to work with. What matters most to you now? At this point in your life, at this point in the program, what matters most to you now?
You keep referring to age and in my life. Just because I'm 5 years older than the average, just go ahead and say it. Well, what matters, when I first came home, and I became a Medal of Honor recipient and joined the society, all the living members are like just about 400. And we'd get together every 2 years at a time and have a convention, and we'd talk about, by golly, when when our kids grow up, they're going to be leaders. So we better go out and talk to the schools. So oftentimes we go out one time and talk. I never believed that did a lot of good. We tried. We felt good about it. I don't forget. So when this character development program was developed, it's a winner. I mean, I think there's a program. There's curriculum. There's DVDs. It's just a wonderful program, and I think it truly has the opportunity to change the values of our country. And you start with the youth, and some will say, whatever. If they have no values, they'll teach them. If they got values, they'll teach them more. I think it's a program that can influence the direction of our country all in the right way.
As an aside, I didn't say this in my remarks at the podium. We've had 2 training sessions already here in Georgia. Leo came to both of them. We bring teachers, and if we can, if the schedules work out, we like to have a recipient. And I'll show you a short video later, but you can get a sense, I think, of the impact recipients, whether they are the World War II recipients or the Afghanistan recipients. The impact on the kids is amazing. The impact on the recipients. When I watch a guy like Leo or Leroy or Clint with 20 or 30 kids around them, they're like kids in a candy store. It's a match made in heaven. So Leo, the legacy of CDP, what do you think needs to be done for you all to call it a success? How will we measure success in CDP?
That's what I keep asking. And anecdotally, it is a success. I get letters once in a while from some youngsters, but yes, 3 or 4. It's a couple dots, but you can't draw a whole matrix out of that. But it is a success, just anecdotally. And we will know it's a success when these kids are out of high school, grade school, high school, and they participate in our system. They put more into our country than they take out. And not that they don't now, but this will make it better. And that's a fuzzy answer. It's hard to measure it, but we are making a difference.
We'll see it. 7 years ago, you as a group decided to develop an adjunct program of character development called the Citizen Service Before Self Honors, or Citizen Honors Program. So everyone knows the recipients recognize 3 Americans every year on Medal of Honor Day, March 25th, for acts of courage or service that go basically above and beyond the call of duty in their lives and in their communities. Leo, tell us how that program started and how you think that's making a difference.
I think it was Buddy Buca that came up with the idea, but we started it, and we got the governors, the senators, police, newspapers to kind of survey their areas and send recommendations, either a one-time thing, a high school kid jumps in the ditch, the car turned over, filling the water, and he gets the person out. Or a doctor goes to Africa and serves for 30 years, pro bono. So there's a ongoing event, or one of those, and then two selfless, just like Medal of Honor things. The neat thing about it is, what we really like is, when I'm talking to the teachers in Georgia twice now, or bring that up, that it takes a lot of courage as a kid just to get through school without cheating or being a bully or being bullied and all those things. But now all of a sudden, we can recognize a few of those and say, look, you're a high school kid or that doctor or that housewife. Or it used to be just all about us. And it's military, it was easy to recognize. You wear your medals and stuff. But now, so it's just a phenomenal program. And it's so easy to talk about it when you're talking to teachers. And just let alone the courage and the initiative it takes to go through school and be a good student all the way through and do things right.
I think a hallmark of that program's success is this year, for the Citizen Honors that were presented in March, there were more than 200 nominations from across the country, from every state. And so it is meaningful to people. It is making a difference in people's lives, and it is helping spread the word of character development. Okay, questions from you for Leo. There are microphones set up. Just come to the microphone if you would and tell us who you are and ask Leo your question.
Hello, I'm Lead Ambassador Ryan Martin, and one of our core training is, one of the core training words of our month is humility. I was wondering what do you think your definition of humility is?
Humility is doing things when nobody's looking, doing the right things when nobody's looking. That's hard. It's more fun to do them when somebody sees you and says thank you. But there's a lot of definitions, but certainly doing things. It's not, doesn't relate to that, but I wanted to get in. My mantra, the thing I try to live by, there's just 5 words: do what's right, help others. They stand alone or put them together. But I was in school, you got rules. I was a Boy Scout, you got the Boy Scout laws. Eagle Scout, military, you raise your hand, you take those. Geneva Convention on Treatment. I can't remember all that. I'm kind of a simple man, so I came up with 5 words that takes care of all those things. But that'll also give you humility if you just always do what's right and or help others that you need some help with.
Thank you.
You bet.
Great. More questions?
Hi, my name is Tron Stamper with the Atlanta Falcons. You mentioned that family, friends, faith, and fun are really important to you. And so I want to know, how did your friends impact your life while you were away from your family?
Either in the military or in prison, you mean?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, well, the best friends you'll ever have are people you were closest with in the worst crises. And in Hanoi, there was no discrimination or discernment between blacks or whites or Pacific Islanders or Asians of religion. The first 3 years were so brutal. Torture was routine, and people died in torture and so on. You were so close to people, and those friends will last forever. We say here, normally say, if you got 1 or 2 really good friends, you're lucky, and that's great. We had 350 good friends there. That's how many of us there were. So they just, they molded our lives. I had Fred Sherry, a black guy, took torture from me. He thought I was going to die. He went out of his way to get in trouble. But those are friends.
All right, thank you.
Hello, Colonel.
Hi.
First, I would like to thank you for gracing us with your presence. This is such an honor, and just to be in your presence is
You're kind.
truly humbling for me. I am a leader. I currently serve. I was recently installed as the first Georgia Higher Education PTSA president. I'm also the student representative for Georgia Parent and Teacher Association.
Wonderful.
And leader to leader, how do you leverage diversity, and how do you remain so grounded, but you've been assigned to make an impact on the world? What inspires you to keep on going?
Can you go a little deeper into that question so I make sure I understand it?
What keeps you balanced?
My wife. I think the older I become, the more humble I become. I've gotten to the point now, I think humility is my strongest point. No, I don't mean to be flippant with you, but I think what keeps me balanced is I found out, I hate to keep going back to Hanoi, but I'm as average as you can get. There were people there stronger than I, some weaker than I. And also, if you go through real brutal times, there's different parts of each one of us. Your threshold of pain, your attitude. There's all kinds of, and some things I'm better than average, sometimes I'm worse than average. But I would never know myself as well as I did by being tested like that. And that's an advantage. But now I'm going off track somewhere. But I think just realizing your skills, your abilities, and appreciate those who are around you, learn from every day of your life, and you are a leader, and that helps, I think, emphasize the humility and being willing to listen and learn from everybody else, and they'll see you as someone who they respect.
Thank you again, Colonel, for choosing to be great in spite of adversity. I appreciate you.
But you're welcome.
Hi, my name is Tanya Williams, the broker owner of Williams Realty and Consulting and Tanya M. Williams Designs. My question for you is, seeing you speak, you were very emotional just now, and that emotion, I felt it as well.
I was not. My eyes sweat one time.
And I felt it as well. And when you're talking with the teachers, just that raw emotion that comes out, how did you find, or the questions that they ask you, have you found that you give different information to them than you do to the kids, but everyone's touched by that emotion, but I'm just trying to figure out, what do you tell the teachers, or what do you feel is most important for the teachers to bring so they can guide the students? And then when you're talking with the students, what nugget is most important for you to share with them?
Man, that's a lot. I think talking to the teachers, I start with, it's easy because I'm just 100% sincere. They get the most important job in the world, and they're most underpaid for what they're expected to do, but they do it, and they're just phenomenal. I think that from the student's point of view, if at some point I think they realize that nearly all the teachers are there because they want to make a difference in the kids' lives, and they're passionate about their job. And anytime you can be passionate about anything, you're going to do it better. So that's kind of a generalized question. I'm sorry, your question was longer than my answer because I can't. But I think, can I stop there?
You can. No. Yes. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Colonel.
Yes, sir.
David Allen from the Georgia Natural Resources Foundation. First of all, we admire and appreciate you so very, very much, and thanks for spending time with us this morning. Could you briefly describe your best day at the Hanoi Hilton and your worst day at the Hanoi Hilton?
Worst day is easy. The day I broke. I was in heartbreak, which is the torture cells, and I went past name, rank, serial number, date of birth. And in my mind, I knew some of the POWs were ahead of me, and I was sure they hadn't. And then the next to the best day is when I survived those 18 days and nights, and they put me a guy by the name of Jim Haichu. And we'd known each other 6 weeks before that, and we didn't recognize each other. We changed so much, but I wouldn't look at him and said, I'm a failure because I'm majorly open. He said, Leo, don't you know, everybody who went through that torture, either they broke or they died. Some did both. The best day in prison, the second best day in prison was when B-52s came into Hanoi. And Nixon put them in there the 18th of December, 1972, and they came back the next day and the next night, the next night, the next night. And we knew. Bud Day said, it's over. Either they get hit with 30,000 feet, they could drop bombs within 2,000 feet of it. That's not a big angle. And if 52 was veered off course, hit by SAM, that would end it for us. But we didn't think that would happen. It didn't, but it made them the North Vietnamese get real serious, then negotiated the peace into the war. The best day, of course, is the day I came home, and there was my wife and daughter.
Leo, let me add an adjunct to that, because you've talked to me before about this, but tell everyone, in case they don't know, about the TAP code, what it is and how it changed your lives.
Sure. It's like teamwork, or some of the things that are so important. It's critical to life or death there if your team fails or part of the team. But the communications also, sometimes it meant the difference between life and death. And our form of communications, if they cut first 3 years, 3 years were brutal, 3 years were boring. The 3 years were little teeny cells. I spent over a year and a half, or a little over a year and 5.5 by 6 foot cell. That's 3 years, big cells. First 3 years, you couldn't, any sound, if they heard you, they beat you. Last year, you could talk out loud. It was a big change. But the TAP code, first 3 years, you had to communicate. When I ended up in Heartbreak, when I first got there, that's the name we had for the little torture cells. Fred Cherry, the black guy I mentioned, who took torture for me. I didn't know the TAP code, and so he hollered it out to me, knowing that they beat that man for a year and or a day and a half, just about killed him. And the reason it's so important is, as soon as a new guy came into Heartbreak, we had to find out the name of the prisoner, Major Leo Thorsness in my case, because then we'd get that out to the other POWs. And somebody in that, some POW who just about took turns would tell the camp authorities, the guards, we knew who Leo Thorsness was in cell 4. What that meant was, now the whole camp knows the odds of our being kept alive were better. And that's true. The TAP code was, by the way, as there, 2/3 of us there were Air Force. There were a third of the aviators were Marine or Navy, and there were 5 Marines there. Anybody in Marine background here? There's one. It's good. Thank you. And there's some Navy guys here, I'm sure, and there's some Army, or there was no Army there. The TAP code was, you lined up to your alphabet, 5 rows of 5. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. We threw away K because we wanted 5 rows of 5. So the third one down here was L, M, N, O, P, and so on. And then you tap row, slight hesitation, column. Leo, LT is my initial, L is, right? LT. And we would tap GBU. At night, you get next to the cell, and you tap real quietly, and then you tap GBU, God bless you. And the guy, if he wasn't in stocks also, he'd get to his side of the wall, and he'd tap GBU back, GN, GBU, GN, God bless you, good night. Very meaningful to have a POW just 12 inches away from you, even though you're solitary. But when you learned that, you could tap about 15, well, the Air Force, like I said, Bruce, if you're an Air Force guy, no, I'm going to say Arthur because I want to build him up a little. If you're Air Force, you and I will tap about 15 words a minute. And let's say you're Navy. I'd slow down to about 12 words for you, sir. You know what I can say, don't you? Those 5 Marines. We didn't even bother to try to teach the 5 Marines. No, I'm kidding. But the TAP code was absolutely, at times it meant the difference of life and death.
Good,
it really
thanks.
did.
And we have another question.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Colonel, so much for your courage. My question for you is, what do you think are the top 3 reasons why people don't show courage?
Bad upbringing. Somehow they don't have values. Somehow, see, I think courage is a moral value, I think. In my view, based on nothing except my view, by the time someone's a couple of years old, we all have a moral compass in us. We basically know right from wrong. You little kids, they'll take kids candy from somebody else. They don't. But somehow, as we get older and kids, when he's selling drugs, his heroes down the street with a pocket full of $100 bill. Somehow, what's wrong overwhelms what's the courage of the know what we know way down deep is right. Is a stronger force or something. But we know. And I think if you don't have courage, your moral compass is whacked up a little bit. And by the way, courage, every one of us, this table right here, if that table were red hot, I'm talking about pain threshold also, but courage is in the mind. That table were red hot and they offered each one of you $1 million, slap your hand down and whoever came off last would win $1 million. If you're willing to try it, they'd all come off at a different time. We all have a different threshold of pain. And it's in your mind is what courage is. And you can live through a lot if we got through tough times. The will to survive is really strong. You'd hate to die. Also, we were surrounded by some really good people who would but we also would break time into blocks. If you're going through some tough times, you say, I think I can hold on another 60 seconds. Here we say, take it a day at a time. We've all heard people say that, going through a hard time, and it helps to break it down. Jim Cowster is about one of the greatest fighter pilots. Got a message yesterday, he's doing that. He's in hospice, will die in a few days. And also breaking time down, and we've good friends to other people to help you out, take courage, torture for you. And then I don't mean to pull it last, but I think the Lord expects us to do the best we can for ourselves, and prayers were answered. And I believe, I'm not here to preach, but I hope everybody has some spirituality, whatever you want to call it. I had to be a Christian, but that helps. Sorry, I went on and on there.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Shano, and I'm over social studies for the Department of the Georgia Department of Education. This is the third opportunity I've had in 2 months to see and listen to Colonel Thorsness. And what strikes me every time is I feel like I'm in the presence of greatness. And
Take your time.
And humility, I might add.
Swing.
But this is
Touché.
my 19th year in education, and I'm very appreciative that the state board and our superintendent decided to go through social studies, even though we do involve counselors in this and a number of other people to bring them in to listen to the training, which is phenomenal, by the way, if you've not had an opportunity to look, and they have online resources. But what I love about it is it actually puts social studies in action, which at the end of the day is our role, is to create active and involved citizens. So every time I've listened to teachers, and we've had a lot of trainings over the years, but I'm telling you, every time I've listened to teachers go through this training, they're absolutely moved, and they're so energetic to bring this back to their students, to change the lives and the moral fiber and the moral compass of their students, that I can't say enough. We have several more trainings already scheduled. We do hope to be, the state that will lead the nation when it comes to this program. I cannot thank you enough in the Medal of Honor Foundation. But what would you like to see? Colonel Thorsness, after you've finished, and we've brought him in, and he's logged a lot of miles over the last several months coming and doing this for us. But I'd like to know, what is it that you would like to see as a result of coming and spending time with Georgia teachers?
I would like to see, and I'm told maybe it's not possible, I'd like to see tracking of these students, and when they're out of high school or in college. Has this program impacted them? Has it made a difference? We know it does early on, but that's what I want to see. That's what I believe is happening. But can you figure that out for me?
Yes, I'll get to work on it.
Maybe the Board of Education, the superintendent could do that, sir.
Absolutely.
But I don't mean to be flippant, but we're wasting if this isn't doing any good, then we're just feeling good about it for a day or two. But I'm convinced it's going to have a lasting impact, and it sure would be nice to know that. But anecdotally, it looks like it is. I've had a couple of kids call me that I spoke to 6 years ago, and one quit college and went back, so there's a few, but I know it's making a difference long term.
You are making a difference. The program's making a difference. I met with educators and curriculum directors yesterday that are still talking about the training you did 2 months ago.
Good.
So
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that endorsement of what we're doing. That's nice.
Good morning.
I'm
Hi. I am the daughter and wife of veterans, and now mother of a soldier.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you so much for your service. When I heard about you, when you were talking about being a prisoner of war, my dad was in World War II. And a lot of people in his generation have passed on. He passed on 1.5 years ago. And it was so hard to get him to talk about his experience and what's going on. And as I speak to some of his friends who served during World War II and some in the Korean War, it's kind of hard to pull out of them to get them to talk about some of the things that they went through, not necessarily bad, but any experience at all. And I was just wondering, in your case, was it difficult for you to speak about what you went through? And if so, what was it that brought you to the point where you were able to share your experiences with everyone? And I was just wondering if there was any recommendations you would have to get the older generation to just speak to the younger generation to encourage them.
My brother-in-law, World War II, same way. He'd never talk about. I think what happened in our case takes a minute. The last 3 years we were in big cells. In addition to me keeping track of those 4 things were most important in life: friends, family, faith, and fun. We were our own counselors. We talked about. We occasionally they'd give us a snippet out of a communist newspaper talking about the anti-war stuff going on in the United States. And so we said, here we are, and how the country was getting more and more anti-war. And unfortunately, they took it out on the veterans at that time. Now, even though they don't like the wars, they're still supporting the veterans, and that's such a good lesson. But we said, when we get home, what problems will we face? And this was part of it. And some years after we were home, we had one POW commit suicide. We were so much better adjusted, and we didn't know at the time. But our saying, we all had at least a bachelor's degree because we're all aviators. To be an aviator, and so we talked about weather. We talked about could we keep up with our peers when we get home. We talked about missing 6 years of flying or command time. We talked about if we got a family. Most of us had a family. I was 35 when I was shot down, a couple years older than the average. When we get home, we better darn well remember Mom's boss. She's been, and we talked about sex. We talked about every issue we could think of we'd have when we got home. And it turns out we didn't end up with PTSD. But we were our own counselors. We weren't informed that that's what happened. And so I think all of that helped a lot. And we also said, if there's this anti-war is going on, how bad the war is, and we were baby killers, blah, 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 maybe we have the obligation to try to talk about that war and what happened in that war. Both is the rules of conduct. I was shot down by a MiG, but I could see MiGs every day as I flew over the base. We couldn't touch the base because that might escalate things. We had to wait till they're airborne shooting at us. Just dumb stuff. And so we said, I think we should talk about it. We decided that if we could be comfortable doing so, and so so we did.
Okay, thank you. I will take that on to my son, who's very excited about the Medal of Honor curriculum that's coming out. He said, Mom, this is a great thing, and he wished that it had been out when I was teaching him so that he would have had the opportunity.
Thank you, and thank your family for all the military. Appreciate that a lot.
We have another question here, Leo.
Colonel, I don't have a question for you. I just want to say first a word of thanks for your sacrifice and service to our country and for taking this on and being here today to share with us. My second word of thanks is thank you from the position. My name's Gordon Pritz. I'm superintendent of schools in Douglas County, Georgia, just west of Atlanta. And we adopted in our district 2 years ago this program. And I want to recognize my Director of Student Support, Mr. George Chip, who's here today. George, if you could stand up, please. George is in the National Guard Reserve, and he works for me. He was called up to Afghanistan about 2 years ago to fly. And when he came back after a year gone, we put him back in as an assistant principal in a high school. And he later on became the Director of Student Support, and he brought this program to me. He said, you need to look at this. My dad was an Air Force chaplain. My brother flew helicopters in Vietnam, and it was a no-brainer for me. And you wonder if it's making a difference. We have 25,000 kids in Douglas County schools, 34 schools. We have this program in every one of our schools, and believe me, sir, it is making a difference.
Thank you. That's such good feedback. I appreciate that a lot.
And I would just encourage everybody that's in here today, and I see my good friend Curtis Jones, he's an Army guy, but he's a superintendent of schools in Griffin Spalding. And I just encourage everybody in here, if you'll go back, call your superintendents and tell them you need to consider this program. We're getting it free, and in today in public education, when you get something free, you jump all over it. But thank you, sir.
Thank you again. Thank you.
Hi, Colonel. My name is Dana. Thank you so much for being here. Something you just said struck me. You said in regards to the government telling families, don't write letters, it'll make it more difficult. You said the government wasn't evil, they were just wrong. Do you have any advice, or is there any advice in this curriculum about getting young people to engage in the civil discussion in politics when politics and government seem so contentious right now?
Yes, I'm frustrated. It's hard to know now as an individual how to have influence on our federal government. It's getting bigger and bigger, and we won't get into that. But if I ran for office, I was very good at winning primaries. I only won one general, but I was really good at winning primaries. But anyway, so I've been around a lot. But I told people, if you're going to bitch and moan about what's going on, do you vote? But half of them don't. Get involved, support somebody, run for office, or support somebody you believe will represent your views. And I think one of our civic duties is to have people involved in our political process. Just no doubt.
Thank you.
You bet.
Colonel, I have to share this one with you. I've had the wonderful honor and privilege of being with this gentleman now several times at our trainings. I'm Martha Reichert, and I'm Deputy State Superintendent at the DOE. But a comment at our last training, which was at Metro with Dr. Putnam over here, and several wonderful teachers. And as I was walking out of the hall that day, one of the teachers followed me and she said, you know, I've been so inspired by Colonel Thorsness. And she said, one thing I'm going to do, she said, I'm going to be a better role model myself. And you know, that really said a lot to me. Our teachers, sometimes they do not realize the power of their own influence. And that every day, by every word, by every deed, by every gesture, every conversation, they have an opportunity to turn children in a different direction and influence their choices and certainly influence their attitudes. So you brought that out in her. And I think you're probably doing that every time you share your experiences with these teachers who are coming together for this training.
That's nice of you. We are becoming kind of like buds now. We're together a lot. Thank you. That was nice.
Leo, there's been discussion about veterans.
Yes.
And you talked about the reception veterans received back when you were coming home and the comparison of it today. Do you think, or what can the American public do from your point of view to help returning veterans and veterans who are moving back into a civilian society?
We live in Huntsville, Madison and Huntsville, and there's like 31 veterans organizations over there. Vets for vets. They get Corvettes. They forget to club it. But the more, so, you know, Ron, you spent a career in the Air Force. Yep. You set me up on that because you know the answer.
Yep.
But can you answer? Because it's all the right things. Can you talk about it a little bit?
Well, yeah, I think the answer is find a way to fit them into your lives, into your work. Recognize that they have skills and training, leadership experience. They're good citizens. You talked about the importance of values. They've learned values in the crucible of their military service. They've had leadership. I think, and I don't think it's a crisis. I just think, as you said, if people just think about more, about what they could be doing to be a better role model, a better citizen, a better friend to students and veterans, it would just be a much better country if we all did that. So,
I've just gotten involved with the Augusta Warrior Project. It's named that because it started there. But it's doing everything for veterans. They've gone from 161 to 9 veterans on the street. That's a success. But we're helping them with college. We get them to the VA. And there's a lot of good organizations like that. And we're paying a lot of attention to it, but there's still a problem there. But yeah, so. There was a search. Is that okay? Yeah, good.
First, I want to thank the Arthur and Blank Foundation for bringing this forward to the community.
You bet.
And very awesome. I was moved by the video and the words of all of your colleagues who spoke really in terms of the medal that they were selected to represent the bravery of others. And I want to first, second, thank you for your service. But can you talk a little bit about, I won't call it the burden, but the responsibility you feel for representing all of those whom many didn't make it back, and how that can translate into how we can be better keepers of our brothers and sisters?
If you, and all of us who received the Medal of Honor, we received it because of violence in combat, one way or the other. And this program is all about the values that we take with us. But if we wear the Medal of Honor responsibly, those were around. Maybe they will pick that up a little bit. But I think all of us, it's too simplistic, but I wear this for all those who didn't come home, those who served, should have had it. Just, for a lot of reasons, it falls through the cracks. But I also wear it, I like to think I wear it for all Americans. I don't care if you're the maintenance person here in this wonderful building. If you do your job, you put a little bit more in than you take out. Be a responsible person. This isn't for military, it's for all America. If we can just sort of elevate a little bit and take take less out and put more in, our country will go on ad infinitum. But we're getting divided, and I don't know, we all know the issues, and it's easy to talk about them, hard to do something about it, but I think each one of us do the best we can and, fight it all the way and drag your heels over the edge if you have to, but that's so generalized. I don't know that there's any wisdom there at all, but I wear it for everybody. Yeah, sure.
Okay. What I'd like to do now is show you a video that will let you see from the standpoint and the viewpoint of not only recipients, but teachers and students about the impact the character development program has had on them. So if you would, could you run that second video, please?
I think the greatest way to give of yourself and what you have to offer is by teaching. Trying to explain that the worst thing that can happen to a human being is to have to take the life of another human being. You will never, ever forget it.
How do you teach character? What's the best way to teach character education to young people? Quite frankly, you can put up a lesson plan and write anything out. That doesn't mean it's going to connect to kids.
We were asked as a team of educators to write lessons based on video interviews with living recipients of the Medal of Honor. So we were looking at courage and commitment, sacrifice, integrity, citizenship, and patriotism. And those are fundamental values for, I think, everyone in our nation.
We worked hard at finding ways to take recipient stories and turn them into classroom materials, some ways that teachers could use them to impact their students.
This was something you never forget. I have a debt to pay. So I made a promise. If I ever go to America, I'm gonna become a G.I. Joe.
I wish these were the stars of baseball cards in this country. I wish kids grew up knowing these recipients' stats. I wish they knew where they were all born and what wars they fought in and what they're known for, as they do athletes and rock stars. We're trying to spread the word about what kinds of citizens these are. We're trying to spread the word that these qualities will help you in many ways.
What did he do that was really extraordinary to y'all? Brandon?
He ran through a severe firing to help the wounded. Also, even though he was hurt, he kept moving to help people.
All right.
Their stories are very surprising that someone could go to that deep of a level and, risking their own lives for someone else.
These guys really embody a lot of characteristics that we want to pass on to our students. I've dealt with students who have personal struggles that I could barely comprehend and barely get my head wrapped around what they have to deal with. But then you show one of these videos and plug this into a class, it's phenomenal.
I remember seeing on one of the tapes, after they taught this curriculum to a selected group of kids in Erie, really cynical high school kids, saying to the camera, I didn't know this. Why didn't I know this?
If we could figure out a way to educate young people as they're growing up, that each person they meet has the potential to change the world, then we've accomplished something.
We won't be able to tell what the full positive effect will be until the generation who receives the education will have matured. But instinct tells me, my intuition says, that if you have two choices, education or no education, you're going to be a lot better with education.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our part of the program. I'd like to thank you all again for being here. I hope that Leo's story and his wit and his insight is as uplifting for you as it always is for me. I'd like to thank Arthur and Penny and the whole foundation for making this possible. and the foundation and the State Department of Education and the Guard for partnering, and for all teachers who are already involved and who are going to be involved in bringing this program to the kids in your state. It's important. It's the Lord's work you're doing, and we really appreciate it. Before we end, though, I'd like to ask Arthur to come up because we want to make a presentation from Leo to you, Arthur. Medal of Honor Portraits of Valor is a book that we've sold 300,000 copies of. It has the stories of living recipients in it, and Leo has signed, as we've asked him to do on his page, to the Blank Foundation, this copy, and we want to give this to you as a token of our appreciation.
We appreciate so much what you're doing, sir. Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Arthur. And Leo, I think
we're done.
You and I are done. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Penny, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Penny.
Leo, Ron, we can't thank you enough for being with us this morning and sharing these stories and this important program. Many thanks to all of you, especially to those of you who are serving our country in this really very difficult time for all of us. So thank you for being here. We typically try to bring to our speaker series an audience who can help us activate whatever it is we're talking about. We don't do these just to have wonderful stories, although they indeed are that. But we really do them to try to make a difference, to try to go forward and make a change. So many thanks to our Department of Education team who is helping us carry this forward in the state of Georgia. All of you who would like to help make this a bigger and better program can be in touch with us or with Ron or check out the information on our website or their website. And we thank you for being here.